Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Green, and today, yes, things look a little bit different. My house is currently on the market, and apparently having a full YouTube studio setup is a little bit off-putting to potential buyers, so I've had to reduce down to a office setup. I do apologize for that, especially if the audio quality is not quite as good. I had to take all the sound padding down and just stack it in a pillar in the corner, which I'm hoping is just as effective. I don't think that's how science works, but you know what they say. When there's a will, there's a way, and I certainly will it to be that way. But before we get into the news, I just want to let you know it's the last day to pick up any of the Neon Ghost merch, so if you'd like to grab yourself a ghosty, that little merch shelf after today will be far more empty. But kicking on into our first story of the day, let's start in familiar territory because things are so different now. And that's going to be a cover reveal from Orbit Books for Fathomfolk. This debut book from Eliza Chan just looks sensational. I love the more muted color palette that still managed to have a lot of pop, so credit to the cover artist Kelly Chong as well, but the blurb specifically caught my attention as it reads, Titian Kawi, shining pearl of human civilization and a safe haven for those fleeing civil unrest. Or at least, that's how it first appears. But in the semi-flooded city, humans are, quite literally, on top, peering down from skyscrapers and aerial walkways on the Fathomfolk. Sirens, sea witches, kelpies, and kappas, who live in the polluted waters below, and the Fathomfolk are tired of it. When a water dragon and a half-siren join forces, the path to equality is filled with violence, secrets, and political intrigue. And they both must decide if the cost of change is worth it, or if Tenkawi should be left to drown. Any fantastical story that has a well-fleshed out, water-based society in it, let alone with multiple races, immediately grabs my eye. So this one has been added personally to my TBR. And now, let's transition into the next news, which is going to be a little bit of a backtrack into a story we've previously covered here in Fantasy News, but one that's had an important update. Boiling down the previous coverage here, authors essentially have started to notice that AI-generated works have been listed on Amazon and Goodreads under their name, with scammers essentially just trying to use AI bots to try and crank out crappy books under those authors' pen names and scam their fans into buying what they think is a new work from a favorite author. Amazingly, Amazon did not immediately take down the books, pushed back, and it wasn't until things like the Authors Guild started getting involved that we saw them back down and begin removing titles of the sort. The update here, though, is major authors like Stephen King have come out and made statements that yes, their works are being pirated to train these chatbots, to make them as eloquent as possible when spewing out unoriginal stories. And I'm hopeful that seeing major players make noise about this ongoing issue in the space will force some form of change on the systematic level with Amazon and Goodreads and other booksellers that are having this problem, so that it no longer falls on the individual author's shoulders who have to essentially start playing whack-a-mole against these AI stories as they keep popping up. Yes, it's truly stunning that there is not something in place at the system level to solve this problem immediately at Amazon. And the fact that they originally just said, well, your name's not copyrighted is insane. I do want to make the important distinction though. I am not against AI in entertainment or any industry as a whole. I just believe it needs to be implemented carefully with thorough regulation so that we minimize the damage done to others working in those spaces. I in no way, shape, or form believe you can somehow put the Pandora's box, blah, 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 blah. AI is tech, and when tech techs, it's impossible to untechify. And I've personally never talked to someone who's well educated in the space who really thinks you can put the genie back in the bottle here. But it's just about putting the proper measures in place, and certainly as this tool continues to take off, major safeguards need to be put in place immediately for authors and creatives all across the board, so to make sure their reputations aren't damaged in a way that can cause them to lose fans. The recent ruling that purely generated AI works can't be protected by copyright, I think is a major step in the right direction. But on the smaller scale, issues like this for authors, I just don't see being addressed, and it's kind of terrifying as someone who also operates in the space. I genuinely dread the day when I start seeing people put out like, I made an AI Daniel video where he talks about this book I wanted him to review because I was tired of waiting for him. That's foreseeably in the future. Oh my god, I'm gonna be out of business. Transitioning out of that existential dread, before we get into a One Piece story, a quick word from today's sponsor.
And here we see the hacker, A devilish little fiend determined to wreak havoc on your life by accessing your personal data. As many know, there is very little that deters the hacker. They are relentless little creeps. Whether you're on a public network at a restaurant, a coffee shop, a hotel, an airport, or even your home, your data could be at risk. However, there is one thing that can keep you protected. Today's sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN. You see, sending data over an unencrypted network is like sending your goblin horde for a raid with no weapons. Absolutely zero protection. So any old creepy gremlin with some basic computer knowledge and way too much free time can come along and take a look at all of your private information. That means passwords, financial details, emails, all of it. I said gremlin, boblin, not goblin. I would never... Because goblins are disheveled, not defenseless. I know. Thank you. Can we please get back to the... Luckily, Private Internet Access is here to help. They hide your IP address and safeguard your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. And with service in over 84 countries, it allows you to access content from other parts of the world that might normally be blocked in your country. Streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus have different libraries in different places. By clicking the link down below, you can get an 83% discount, making it just $2.03 a month to protect an unlimited number of devices, with an additional 4 months completely free. So be sure to take advantage of Private Internet Access VPN's great deal and keep your data safe.
So we got more first looks at the upcoming One Piece live action adaptation over at Netflix coming this year, and most importantly to me, and it appears Reddit as well, we got our first look at the Denden Mushi, which iconically are these snails that are used as mass communication within One Piece. And I actually think they look pretty great. I have had so many conflicting feelings on this upcoming adaptation. I don't know if I'm going to love it or hate it, but I know I'm really enjoying the process of seeing it get done. I've kind of let go of the idea that the visuals are going to be fantastic across the board, and I'm just waiting to see if the writing, directing, editing is going to be able to put something together where I'm able to kind of just forego it not living up to the visuals in the manga and in my mind of One Piece overall, and instead just tells what is a damn good story in a reimagining of that story well. But in a last-minute fantasy news update, I swear I could feel coming in my bones, Dune Part 2 has officially been delayed from its original release date of November 3rd of this year to March 15th of 2024. This is most likely due to the ongoing actors and writers strikes, which prevents actors from being a part of press circuits to promote their movies, and it's very understandable. It's one of those things where, yes, still totally support the strike, even understand if it's not those reasons, for some reason just something post-production, I support it being delayed. You want it to be perfect on release, but damn. I do actually have something special and exclusive to this video to hopefully help you feel a little bit better after this devastating Dune news. It's my beautiful cat, Mr. Mako. He's the goodest boy. You want to look at the camera? No? You want to push the... Oh, you're biting the camera lens. He picked up the camera. But speaking of something I hope does well, we also got our first major look at, coming this December, Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder's directorial endeavor that seems to be knocking very intentionally into a similar park as Star Wars, with reimaginings of all kinds of alien creatures, as well as things like lightsabers, which no, Star Wars did not invent, but we generally in the mainstream audiences, of course, just associate space swords with Star Wars. And while I'm not the biggest fan of Zack Snyder, I want that shadow of Star Wars to continue to be pulled away from the space opera genre, and other franchises have great success in that space, so that series I love potentially, like Red Rising or Warhammer, could move into that space with greater faith from studios without the incessant comparison to Star Wars we even saw recently with Dune, even though Dune is what inspired Star Wars. Also, Rebel Moon just seems to be like a R-rated reimagining of a lot of the core concepts at the center of Star Wars. And it is a franchise, because not only is this planned to be 2 movies, but it has also been announced that we are getting a Rebel Moon video game from, I really like their name, Super Evil Megacorp. That 10 out of 10 name. Very well done. Here are my full thoughts on the matter. He always feels like if your dad somehow got the ability to go make a big budget movie. I don't know what it is about him, but every time I see him working on a project, I'm like, that's just like someone's uncle who's getting a big budget Hollywood thing. What's so Zack Snyder about this? Think of all the different, totally separate action sequences we saw in this trailer alone. That means in one feature-length movie from Zack Snyder, we're gonna be getting like 20 goddamn action scenes, which is like the most Zack Snyder thing of all time. But that is going to allow us a very nice transition into another piece of surprise video game news, because we got a trailer for an upcoming release from Pearl Abyss for Crimson Desert. And normally, I just don't trust or believe video game trailers. The recent Starfield one, where it's just live action, that meant nothing. Stupid. Just get it out of my face. It tells me nothing about the game. But this Crimson Desert one was just gameplay. And what they showed off seemed to be like For Honor meets Breath of the Wild meets Grand Theft Auto meets Elden Ring. And holy God, yes. But speaking of bold for the day and age of video games we're in, Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty has had its first major trailer released with the full list of features fans can expect to acquire with this expansion now known in detail. This of course includes a litany of new missions. CD Projekt Red has also said there is now essentially endless events that will be happening around you so the game does not ever run out of content, an overhaul of the police, a whole new upgrading system due to the Johnny Silverhand implant, and a black market. All of this is really enticing, and a few months back it would have felt like Phantom Liberty would have just sucked up all the air in the video game discussion room with this trailer, but we're seeing a lot of competition in terms of being able to just soak up media attention, and it's curious to see things like Baldur's Gate, yes, Starfield, Crimson Desert, and just so much else going on in the video game space right now make it feel like that instead of CD Projekt Red successfully just pulling in the spotlight, they're having a little bit more of a tug of war going on. What I'm trying to say is the video game environment just seems healthier right now. I don't think it's good when one video game can just dominate discussion. I'm just hoping this is a sign of a brighter horizon for the gaming community. But as one sun rises, another has set, which is to say that Charles Martinet, the legendary, iconic voice of Mario, is officially stepping back after over 30 years of voicing the character. It is sad and something I never really thought I'd see for some reason, to see Charles retiring, but at the same time, it is well earned and it just feels like a sweet event. Good on you, Charles. You deserve a long and healthy retirement. And it is noted in this announcement, this does not mean he is done being an ambassador for Mario as a whole, just that he will not be actively voicing the character anymore. Fun announcement though, before we get into the Percy Jackson trailer, we have been doing monthly vlogs on the Patreon, and for the next one, we'll be doing an AMA. So if you'd like to ask me a question that'll be answered in the Patreon vlog next month, go ahead and just join for $1, and you can see additionally a sneak preview of my upcoming Fringe video, which has become the hardest I've ever worked on a project in my life. First 17 minutes are up there, though that version is being tweaked and updated for the final, hopefully to be released in the middle of next month. But yes, in the final piece of news today, we've already gotten the teaser for the upcoming Percy Jacksons and the Olympian series over at Disney+. And I've never been a huge Percy Jackson fan. I read the first couple books when I was a kid, but it just wasn't a franchise that stuck with me forever. Though, I'm excited for fans here, and the fact that Rick Riordan has been very vocally behind this project is a good sign. I just do have hesitation when it comes to Disney+. I have found their originals to be mixed. Some have been great, but a large amount have just been fair. Though this trailer seems to be having a positive response from fans, at least from what I can see in the comments section below it. But with me not being the largest Percy Jackson fan, it leaves me to ask the question to you all who are. How are you feeling about this? And are you going to be watching the dual release of the Percy Jackson series with the first 2 episodes dropping December 20th? Or are you going to skip this one? Let me know in the comments down below. And finally, let's get into the But finally, let's go ahead and jump on into the self-pub promo news for books published by authors within the Goblin Horde. And the first book we have this week is The Chronicles of Arteria, the Arturian Anthology, Volume 1, by D.M. Saunders. Journey to the medieval world of Artera, once known as Tele, with 3 fantastic short stories from debut novelist D.M. Saunders. The first being, long ago, in a time when elves held domain over Artera, magic was everything. They shaped the world with it during the times of peace. However, a great evil now casts a dark shadow upon the world, and an elven sorcerer seeks more power, but at what cost? Secondly, we have magic has all but disappeared as refugees narrowly escape their homeland, avoiding capture by a genocidal tyrant. A weary and demoralized group of humans navigate the vast oceans of Artera, searching for a new land to call home. And finally, contests, games, and a grand tournament. The annual Nemean Festival is coming to a close as the Dance of Steel reaches its climactic final. Come and bear witness to the thrilling, heart-pounding, non-stop sword-fighting action. And for the second book this month, we have Anacrusis by Layman, Kingsford. Before embarking on the epic, ungendered story, learn a little bit about some of Living Empire's central characters in the magical world of divine sign marks. In a world where only one living dual-signed saint has been seen alive at any given time, what happens when there are 6? This collection of 3 short stories serves as prequels to Book 1 of the Living Empire series, Root Position. Meet Trenton Ficus, a wind sign menagerie entertainer who has been fearfully hiding their second weave sign their entire life. Ernan Thewin, first person ever to be born with 2 sign marks, Bone and Tree, and the remote wilderness, Uthingo Valley, is hailed as the great uniter, destined to unite the 2 symbolic but contentious tribes of their parents. Bitter, lonely, and jaded, Chinzan Ari Bonk is recognized by all of the civilized lands as the one true saint. Sure, their flame and tone sign marks caused them to raise their entire family and a whole neighborhood when they were young, but they are still the most revered person in the world. Their choice to keep avoiding politics and religion entirely has yet to keep the powers that be from meddling in their life. But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Hit the Patreon if you'd like to support what I do here. And be sure to check out the merch before it's gone for Neon Ghosts in the shelf. Right there. Have a good one, y'all. Peace. And I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high tier patron, My Rand as Bookshelf.